Welcome to the Comixplosion VX Comics panel session. My name is Sheila Molo. I'll be the hostess. With me are three Vortex Originals African creators. I'll just let them introduce themselves. Santo Ajuluchuku, Oyenirano Latayo, and Oladapo Rarotimi. Go ahead and introduce yourself, guys. Just tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Somta Chuku, and I'm co-creator and writer for Land of Gods. Land of Gods is a Vortex original comic book series which explores African mythology through the eyes of Kashia, Yoruba mythology, which is mixed with a little bit of, across the African mythos. And it pretty much follows the story of a girl who discovers a mirror and finds herself in a magical world and a journey to find her way back home.
Okay. Oyeniran, please tell us a little bit about Zodiac.
Yeah. Okay. So, Zodiac is a story that immerses us right into the confusion of a 18-year-old who not only discovers that he is a reincarnation of a celestial line of warriors, but that they must go against one of the most, I say, fearsome kings of Egypt in history. So it is a collision of two superstar cultures here in Africa, which are the Malian cultures, Dogon specifically, and that of Egypt. The main character is Danka, who is currently about to enter university. So we start the story in a place, like I said, of confusion, because he's dyslexic. So he's still in the process of finding out himself when this whole story begins, and he ends up finding a scroll that was written 1,000 years ago, which contains what I'll describe as celestial mathematics, which can only be understood by the zodiac, which is him, and grants him powers that are based upon the zodiac signs. So the story follows like a coming of age story, if I may say, that follows him, his best friend, and his elder sister as they discover not only himself but the history of Delgon. So, like, this story is just basically cultural exploration, bringing cultures to the fore and having a lot of fun along the way.
Okay. So to tell us what inspired Kashia. What inspired Kashia? Tell us a little bit about her as well.
Kashia is a 13-year-old Nigerian who is also American. Her father's Nigerian, her mother's American. She's never been to Nigeria, and for the first time, she comes back to visit her grandmother in Abeokuta, which is a city in the states, in Ogun State, based in Nigeria. And it's in that her grandmother's home where she discovers the Jikiri, which is a magical mirror that transports her to the land of God. And that is to like serve as an analogy for people who are just coming back home from the diaspora for the very first time to Africa. Uh, is kind of telling them that in Africa there's wonder, there's magic, and there's the multicultural aspects of our, of our existence. You get to see the diversity of our culture, the diversity of our colors, and all kinds of wonder. And Keshia is a very she's a very she's naive, but at the same time she has a very optimistic and free will personality, which kind of drives her to move around fearlessly and make friends and discover new things and take on a journey to go back home without just being overwhelmed by the fact that she's thrown into this world, you know. Um, so pretty much that's kind of her storyline, on getting into this world, this land of gods, which is a magical world of 9 realms. We have the flame realm, the deep realm, the sky realm, and others. She she realizes that this world is at war, and she has to journey through that war and through all that craziness happening to find the magical items that she needs to take her back home. But coincidentally, she realizes that her destiny is entwined with her being in the land of gods at the exact same time when she is, and it's her responsibility to not just save the the world of Oru from the ongoing war, but save her planet Earth as well, which could have some devastating effects from the war that's happening in Oru.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about the land of Orun? Tell us how you developed it.
Well, Oru is made up of 9 realms, and the 9 realms were simply came up with the 9 realms quite randomly, actually. But also, we came up with the 9 realms thinking about um, these different gods, and you know they're different. Like we came up with like thinking about like major gods in our mythology, and the source of their powers. So when you think about a major god from Yoruba mythology like Olokun, you think about the ocean, you think about water, and that's how we came up with the deep realm. Which is the realm of the water body. That's underwater. That's why we call it deep. And then we came up with the flame realm, which is Aganju. And Aganju is the king of the flame realm. And Aganju, according to Yoruba mythology, is the god of fire. And we came up with the under realm, which is the realm of the living dead, and that's where the king of that realm is Eshu, which is the trickster god. You know, so these gods who are iconic in our Yoruba mythology, if we understood and learned about while growing up, kind of helped us as a totem or a sort of compass direction to understand how to build this world and develop this world. Um, and it was also inspired by her journey. We wanted her journey to be very reflective of all the things that constitute nature and all the things that constitutes, just life. And we wanted it to be quite diverse. So it's not like this place looks like this place, or this sounds like a story you've heard before, or we were trying to avoid that Percy Jackson narrative, and give you something that was authentic to African culture. And that's pretty much how we came up with the development of the world. And beyond, even within these realms, there's further development of this world to the kind of different creatures that exist in different realms, to the kind of food that they eat in these different realms, their performance of magic, their worship pattern, their festivals. So there was quite a bit of development that went into um, um, you know the development of Land of Gods. Like for example, in the book one, we learn of the the market called Umuahia. And Umuahia from the Igbo culture is known as children of the forest, right? And it's a state actually in Nigeria, but it made so much sense to put it in the book because they were in Earth Realm. And Earth Realm is filled with like the forest people and woodland creatures and plants, and that's really the formation of the Earth Realm. And Umuahia was a market. It was a marketplace where all the people of the across all the 9 realms came to meet. So that's a certain location that brings you to a whole new fresh world in the Earth Realm. And we came up with creatures that exist in the Earth Realm, such as the golem, which you read about, which you discover, such as the Yawodaba, which becomes Keshia's friend, and other such as even the things like the rainbow, which kind of signifies the age of learning. So we began to pick out things in nature and give them deeper meaning. So it was quite a bit of work. Um, it took about a year and a half to develop Land of Gods.
Wow.
Yeah, it had been a project that I and Janica had been working on for a really long time um, before we actually decided to start producing it.
Is a year a long time?
for developing a story.
Yeah.
A year is a long time. A year is quite a bit of is a long time to stay inspired. You know, to intentionally create a product. I mean, works have been developed for longer. Works have been developed for longer, but a lot of times the development of projects is, well, at least in the comic book stage, um, it doesn't really go for that long, for comic books. When you see that sort of development is when they're about to make a TV series or they're greenlit for a movie, or that's when you begin to see development that goes beyond.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 1 year is pretty much a standard time because I mean, even when they're making TV shows or movies, they have over 20 people developing the story at the same time, so it doesn't really take that long. But yeah, um, we developed that for about 1 year. Before 1 year, I created the characters and a bit of the world, like maybe 2 years before that, and I'd been,
Mm-hmm.
I had the general framework of what the idea was and what the character was, but down to the nitty gritty of naming characters, giving them backstories, connecting these characters down the line. Um, that's something we did within the first year before we started designing the characters and writing out the script.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Oyeniran, please tell us about Zodiac, the main character, and what inspired Zodiac.
I'd prefer to start with what inspired Zodiac. I kind of see modern day storytelling, especially in the comic industry, as an equivalent to being a griot in ancient times. Griots were in charge of carrying cultures, legends, and stories that matter along. That's what we are doing with storytelling now, basically. And that's what I plan on doing with Zodiac. I mean, there's such a large cultural resource to pull from when you think about the Dogons, their knowledge of astronomy, the Awa Society, which was their own masquerade society. I've been reading a lot about it, and I see there's a lot we can pull from. Same thing goes for Egypt, which is not really a secret because, as we know, Egypt are Egypt had one of the largest, was the cultural center back in the day. So one of the basic things that inspires Zodiac was you need to pull from this resource and make a nice story out of it. And well, as for the characters, what inspired them, I'll say it is basically the teenage experience. I see Zodiac as a story where we can follow how a young man becomes the hero that the world needs him to be. I mean, I think as a character, Dankar is inspired by acceptance. I mean, we all reached that age where we don't really know who we are. We are trying to find out who exactly we are. And then the world comes by and tries to tell us who to be. So Dankar's story is all about him finding acceptance in who he is, him trying to protect everything he cares for. Because if you read it from the first issue, we see one of his major motivations was trying to preserve his life and the world in which he lives in. So yes, Zodiac is inspired by Dankar as a character is inspired by acceptance, by his need to protect. So I think that basically covers it.
Tell us about the world in which the story is set. Tell us about where it's set, what age, what date.
Oh, okay. Well, we keep bouncing between past and present. The major or the mainstream storyline is in present day Lagos. I mean, just the sights, the views, just Lagos as we know it. But we also bounce back to the past. We visit ancient Dogon, we visit Egypt, try to, you know, circumvent and circumscribe everything just to make it more realistic.
Okay, all right. Um, some to tell us which stories inspired your creation of Land of Gods while you were working on it or even before.
Um, a lot of things inspired Land of Gods, like um, you know, definitely books like Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. That was a heavy inspiration for Land of God. Igodo, which is an old Nollywood movie. That was a big inspiration for Land of Gods. Going down into modern day cartoons like the Avatar. A little bit of Lord of the Rings. So it was pretty much just pulling it from a lot of things. But I think the things that inspired me the most was, close connections like friends, um, and relationships that I had at that time, you know, um, which kind of gave me because the creator, my co-creator, is American, um, and I'm Nigerian, so it was kind of easy for us to create that duality, And she's from New York, and I'm from Lagos, so it was very easy for us to create the New York side of her, what makes her a New Yorker, and what makes her, and back to her African roots, And before then, I'd written a book called Eternals, which was also an exploration of African mythology, which I canceled, and which I later revamped a bunch of characters inside Eternals to become characters in Land of Gods, because we did Eternals. It was greenlit for about 8 issues, but we canceled it after issue 0. And after that,
Why? If you don't mind asking, why did it get cancelled?
We weren't just I wasn't just as a creator, I wasn't very confident in the longevity of the story. I wasn't just very confident in the longevity of the story. I was, and I just felt like there was something else I wanted to tell that really wasn't. I didn't want to tell the God story from an adult perspective. I wanted to tell it from a coming of age perspective. I wanted to tell it from a very human perspective. And I also wanted to use that as a tool to connect to the diaspora. I wanted to use LOG as a tool to, to share the narrative of the year of return. Where people from the diaspora feel like they should come back home. And when you come back home, wherever you're coming back to, once you're landing in that airport, that's your magical mirror. And once you walk through that airport city, you've gotten into the land of gods. And that's the illusion we wanted to support the narrative of land of gods, pretty much. So
that's pretty dope.
Yeah. So those were the inspirations that kind of got us into a lot of things, like Snowball was inspired by my neighbor's dog. He's very clingy. He's also very protective. And that kind of stuff. It was also inspired by what you call it, characters like Ori was inspired by a close friend of mine that knows everything. So he always has the answers to everything. When you ask him a question, it's like, oh, and it's like he's always winning the argument. So I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna put this guy, I'm gonna make him Ori. And Ori happens to be the god of knowledge, So when you think about the small circle of friends, those were like, I remember that was my like situation in college, when I was in the university. I had like that set of friends that I felt like I could conquer the world with. And when we made the first poster with Kashia on the cliff and all the friends we had there, that was really my vision. I was like, yo, this is my squad, and we're rolling out into the world unknown. And that was pretty much the inspiration behind behind Land of Gods. And Janica did a brilliant job in bringing a lot of experience in terms of the standards for storytelling, in terms of the direction of the story, in terms of balance between the characters, the conversation between the characters, the relationship between the characters, how those relationships grow, and also how they diminish. You know, when the character breaks his trust, how does that affect the dynamic between these characters? So there was a lot of reality she brought into it, into like creating logs for characters, you know, creating like this happened in this part of the story and this happened in this part of the story. So when I'm writing this history, I should remember that this happened so Kashia can act this way, you know, which brings a sort of um, maturity to the character. You can feel the character grew through the story. So that was a lot of her contribution, um, you know, alongside working with me in creating the world, of course.
Okay, all right. Oyeniran, can you tell us what inspired your story? Which stories inspired your
Well,
story? Any of them?
basically, I read a lot of comic books growing up, so to lay a finger on one was very hard. I also read many works by Bendis, and Bendis's writing really changed the way I saw writing, the way I saw the game, and it changed the way I wanted to write. So basically, with the characters, it was easier because, according to Mr. Julichuku, he simply told me to give him a story that centered around the teenage experience. So immediately, I set to work to create
Mm-hmm.
characters and people that centered around that life, which is why the Kanka is in 200 level, which is how we measure it here in Nigeria. And then there are the love interests, there's the wacky best friend, and the annoying elder sister. So basically, the story was inspired by teenage teenage experience and many other things.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Oladapo, hi. Thank you for joining us. Could you please introduce yourself for the audience?
Yeah, I'm Dak Borutimi. I wrote Folktales for Vortex. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Folktales. Can you give us a synopsis?
Yeah, it's a story about it's mostly about beings, like these stories we all heard as children, Madame Koi Koi, and there's so many of them, like the Bush Baby, and all those characters, like, so it's about them actually, they're in a world where they live, but on they are given, terms and conditions, and there are things they can and cannot do. So there's and at the same time, one of them has been roped into a murder. There's a murder case, and fingers are actually pointing at them. So it's just about them actually surviving, because the heavens are after them, bad guys are who try to rope them in are after them, and there are also some very special children in the story. So they go from the story just moves from like one point to the other at a point they find themselves in different parts, and all, but at the end the story gets resolved. So it's a very, very fun, like an adventure story. There's kids in it too, so but it's very bloody at the same time.
Right, Somto, what's your favorite VX title?
Um, VX original or just like VX title in general?
In general and original.
In general, I love Zodiac. I love Zodiac. He does amazing work. I'm totally inspired by him. You know, is an exceptional writer. I think a character that I really appreciate from the Zodiac series would be Chopsticks, which is Zodiac's best friend, which was an original creation by him. You know, he came up with that character. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but another story outside the originals that I like would definitely be um, um, Strygard. I like the Strygard character because I dedicated a lot of time in my career to working on Strygard, um, about 2 3 years. And you know, we got a lot of that's one of the characters that made the studio popular. So a big deal for me. Then another story which I really like would be um, um, I love characters. I love Kashia, and I love the Land of God story. Because that was the first story that we made when we were coming back into the game. You know, after we had one of silence, and I remember we launched that at the Nikon in Nairobi, in Kenya, your city. So that was that was an epic moment and a really great way to come back with with a story that really resonated with the African culture that we were coming with, and with the new perspective that we were coming with back into the comic business. So yeah, but other stories that I definitely love Juju Man. It's a beautiful exploration of Igbo culture. I find it very fascinating. I love um, I love Oro from Mad Comics. I think that's
Yeah,
a
I
really,
really like horror.
yeah, I think that's a really I think that's a really it's a very interesting character. He kind of reminds me of Spawn, but in a very authentic way. Um, and then I like Captain South Africa. I love the story development of Captain South Africa. It's exceptionally done. I love the lettering of the comic book. I think Suku is a genius when it comes to comic book creation. You know, but yeah, I could go on and on because I have a very big appetite for reading comic books. So I mean, I don't think I'm gonna stop if I continue. So yeah, those are the comic books I like.
Oyeniran,
Yeah, man.
Oyeniran, please, yeah, please tell us what your favorite VX titles are.
Well, for me, I've always had this kind of fetish for dark stories. So the first choice for me is definitely Ojuju. I like dark stories, so for me it is Ojuju. I like the noir aspect of the character. I like how he just moves in and beats the shit out of everybody. Sorry, that's just me. And yes, Oro, because Oro too is a dark character. So yes, it's up there for me. And the world building of Eluj, it shows a lot of work. Shows that a lot of work has gone into building the characters, the world. It is brave, new, and exciting. So yes, Eluj makes number three for me. So yes, I'll go with Ojuju,
Okay.
LOG, and yeah.
All right, thank you. Um, Oladapo, Oladapo, please tell me about the characters in Folktales and what inspired those characters.
Well, in Folktales you have Madame Koi Koi, Clifford, Oji, um, Nine Lives, the Bush Baby. Yes, and those characters were inspired by when I was young. I didn't really read comics or novels and anything, but I saw mostly movies and cartoons and Superman and the rest. And I used to wonder why we don't have characters. I mean, we have a lot of these stories and these people, like these myths and legends and everything, and nothing's really been done with them, like with comics and everything as at then. So when I tried, when I eventually got into comics, and Vortex gave me the opportunity to work on something related to these characters, so I found it very interesting doing the research and bringing those characters to life. So I was actually inspired by most of the stories I heard, because I heard a lot of stories of Madame Kwe Kwe and Mayflower boarding schools and everything. So that's what inspired the story and characters.
And if
All
I may
right.
add, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, please.
I was thinking I wasn't going to pass myself on the back, but I can't avoid it. So of course, Zodiac makes number 4 for me because, of course, I wrote it and I love it, and I'm patting myself on the back and giving myself the trophy. So here it is. I love Danka, and I so love Chopstick's character because even if I put it on paper, I'm already laughing. It's really an awesome adventure. Writing Zodiac is one of the best things that has happened for me in a long time. So yes, Zodiac is number one. That's
Okay. Okay, that's cool too. That's pretty okay. Yeah. All right. So tell us about the world of the story, Oladapo. Tell us about the world your story is set in and how you created it.
It's set in a world where spiritual beings lurk around humans. Secretly. They don't actually live. They don't actually live in the open where you see them, but they are there. They kind of like themselves. They are a form of spiritual magic and everything. It's kind of based on I don't know, maybe like kind of dreams I have, because dreams are kind of weird sometimes, and also it was mostly inspired by films like Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Apprentice. So those kind of stories, those kind of worlds.
Okay, all right, thank you. And what stories inspired your story? But I feel like you've already. Are there any specific ones?
I don't really know. Just there are many. Maybe Harry Potter. Yeah.
Harry Potter. Okay. All right. What's your favorite VX title?
I used to really like Strike Guard because of the costume, guy, and the fact that there's this ghost he talks to, but nobody else sees the ghost. I like Dream 12. I like superheroes. So, and that there's this Vortex, one of these Vortex comics that's based in space and everything. I don't know the name.
Orisha?
I've forgotten the name.
Orisha R?
Like, yes, there's this dude that wears this green, this green costume.
Yeah,
I like that
that's
one.
the one.
I like that
Yeah.
one too. Yes, I like Folktales too. There's one other one. I think Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my favorite.
Alpha was cancelled.
Okay, Alpha's cancelled. Okay,
Yeah,
let me pick another one. I like Ojuju. Very spooky guy.
Yeah, Ojuju. Yes. All right, then Somto, tell us what to expect in the future. What's the future for Land of Gods?
Land of Gods. Well, it's still at the beginning of the story. I mean, to be honest, I've done the fans a big disservice by having them wait for so long, because the book was greenlit. The issue 3 was greenlit a long time ago, but the producers, Gemma Hill, Cam Gain, Ode, they have been chasing me for this script for a really long time. Yeah, I would say there's a lot happening. The issue 3 is going to be explosive. It's a really big book, because I'm just trying to just let him just take it and just leave me alone. I got other stuff to, I gotta make these music videos,
Yeah.
So I'm kind of writing it's gonna be about 60 pages, the issue 3. That's what I can tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gonna be about 60 pages. It's gonna contain a lot of the story. It's gonna really go into the story, and it's gonna introduce a whole lot of characters. You're gonna see 2 new realms that you haven't seen before, that we haven't introduced to you yet. But it's still scratching the surface. The story still has a very long way to go. We're introducing something really special that people are really gonna fall in love with. I can't tell you what it is, but when you see it,
no spoilers.
It's a sport. It's a sport.
Mm-hmm.
So we're introducing
a
sport. Yeah, we're introducing a sport into that world, and it's something that I personally have not been writing the book, but I've been writing the sport. So during the time when they told me so yeah, you need to write the script and you need to submit it, and I'm like, oh yeah, whatever, guys. And I just started writing about I started writing about the sport, and meanwhile I was putting pressure on Oyeniro to finish his own story. Like, yo, give me that script, bro. Give me that script, bro. But in the meantime, I'd been writing about the sport, and I've really developed sports, and it's really something that's going to be mind blowing. It's fresh, it's new. I think it's one of the first times in an African graphic novel that you get to see an authentic created sport from scratch with rules and teams and the referee and gameplay. And we have like a gameplay manual. Yeah, it's very intensive. So that's something I'm very excited to hear. But the script for issue 3, I haven't finished writing it, but everything's outlined. So probably when I'm out of probably when the summer is over and people have stopped making videos, I'll probably be able to, get out of the animation space and, focus back on, comic book writing. So Land of Gods should be available sometime in September.
Okay, exciting news.
Yeah, it should be available sometime in September. It's about 60 pages. It's at least 60 pages. It could be more, but it's at least 60
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what I can tell you to expect from Land of Gods in the near future. And I can tell you that Snowball is going to evolve again. So that's not his final evolution.
Okay.
So yeah, he's going to get bigger. But that's about it. I think anything is a spoiler. Yeah.
All right. Please don't hesitate to spoil some more if you feel like it. All right. Oyeniran, could you tell me a little bit about what to expect about what we should expect for Zodiac? What's the future of Zodiac?
Well, we're about to release the like Zodiac Nights released in regular 2 and 3, releasing 2.5 currently. So we're about to release 2.5 and 3. And people who have been reading so far haven't really been given an answer to the question that what can Zodiac really do? So that's where I want to go with this next issue. I want to really, how do I put it? I want to really dive into his abilities presently. And it is coming to a origin climax where he faces up with the main baddies working on and on to present. So that's what you can expect with the coming issues.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for doing this.
Cool. I'm going to end it. I'm going to stop recording now.